we go. All righty.
Hey, what's up, softball fans? Thanks for checking out another episode of the Going Yard Podcast. Today we have an interview with Danielle Lawrie. Danielle, thanks for coming on the show.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. Like I said, it's a mini break from this quarantine madness with my children. So I'll lock myself up here. Do this all night.
We won't keep you all night, but we'll have some fun while we do it. We appreciate you taking time in doing this. And it's a crazy time right now, and nobody's ever prepared or ready for something like this. So hopefully we can share some joy and some happiness and some good insight along the way here tonight for those tuning in.
For sure. Would love that.
Now, one thing we always like to start with your softball story growing up, because everybody's story growing up is different depending, softball in Southern California is much different than softball where we're at in the Mid-Atlantic in Pennsylvania and Maryland. So what was softball like for you growing up, and when did you realize, like, I got something here? This is something I can really, take to the next level?
Yeah. So obviously I grew up in a super competitive household. I mean, I had a brother that, has done the MLB thing. I was really lucky to have both sets of parents. My dad was super tough and hard on us and just very driven as far as seeing some talent in both my brother and I. And my mom was the opposite. She was the very, loving and understanding, and it's okay if you have a bad day. So I think my dad was super big on just getting us into a bunch of different sports. And my brother and I have probably some of the most fondest memories just training together when we were when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, and just competing against each other. And something that I've always just valued from what my dad has said is just, do you want to be mediocre or do you want to be great? If you're going to choose to do something, do it with intent. And that started at a really young age. And I was so lucky to play multiple sports, because nowadays a lot of coaches are trying to get these athletes to play one sport, which, having 2 little girls, they will not do that. But I played baseball up until I was 10 years old, and I got cut from this Little League All-Star team, which to this day strictly was because I was a chick and I was better than the boys. And I remember at that time being so mad and like just frustrated at 10, right? My dad pulls me aside. He goes, listen, this is just kind of how the world works sometimes. And let's just open up another door. Is this something you potentially want to do? And I was good at baseball. I'd never tried softball, so I didn't know, right? And so we tried out softball, and I was terrible at first, but then we just started to go through the motions. And once I figured out how to pitch and just blow it by people, there was no turning back, because it was just one of the coolest things, number one, to be in control of the moment at all times, and to just be able to be competitive at something. I loved it. I fell in love with it as soon as I started playing softball at probably 11.
I'd like to know, because you had touched on it, and now that you're a parent and you said you have 2 girls, what did multiple sports do for you? Like, what did, having your winter sport or your fall sport do for you as a competitor when it finally came to the springtime?
Yeah, man, so many things. Number one, it just allowed for me to grow the love of softball, right? Like, it wasn't like I'm doing softball 24/7. It is, I have the opportunity to play basketball. I played high level basketball until I graduated and could have got a scholarship to play. But the ability to play different sports and be great at them, it just means that you're learning in different ways. Like basketball, I mean, dude, you're running and you're going, you have to make quick decisions. You're training your body in different ways. So I think that conditioned me and helped me out. I tried volleyball, was terrible at that, realized that's not my thing. I ran track and field, the 400 meter, the 800 meter. You want to talk about being nervous? I would remember like throwing up multiple times before running a 400 meter race. There is nothing worse. But I would remember I would finish and my dad would be like, these are the things you're going to remember when there's pressure and, you grow up in getting different situations. And I did. There's nothing worse than running a 400 meter race. We did it with Team Canada 2 years ago in Japan. And my team blew it out of the water because I was like, I've practiced this. You got to just go the long stretch. But when you turn the corners, you better turn it up. And so I was just fortunate to play multiple sports. It opened up, my love of the game and didn't allow for me to get to college and feel burnt out.
It's funny because me and Dan, our daughters are both 12, or going on 12. I guess they're 11 going on 12. And I've coached high school level kids for a long time, and Dan's kids are a little younger than mine. And I've always been I kind of say I'm a little biased to like being a one sport athlete in a way, because I see a lot of kids that get to be 16, 17. And if at 14 or 15, they'd have decided to become a one sport athlete, they could have got to the next level. But the schools, the ADs really push multi-sport, multi-sport, which I'm not against either. But like, if you don't prepare, if you're a high level athlete and, like you said, you competed in all these things, a lot of kids, if you're average at soccer, average at basketball, average at softball, well, you're not going to get anywhere just being average. So at some point you do need to focus. So,
Sure.
at what did you do though? Cause you said you blew it by people, and that's probably the biggest advantage you have as a pitcher is to throw it by people. But at some point you do need to learn to locate. You need to learn to spin it. You need to do all these other things. So what did you do to make sure that once you weren't blowing, I mean, you still blow by people, don't get me wrong. I say this, but like, what, what made you realize that you needed to start focusing on these other details? Because pitching is something that takes a specific motion. It takes a specific amount of reps to be consistent at it, right? I mean, if you don't do it enough, you're never going to really get a lot better at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what I was taught from my dad. You don't want to be mediocre at something. You want to be great. And my love for softball did grow the more I started to realize, like, whoa, I could be dominant at this. Now, to say that I thought a college opportunity was out there, I had no idea. Small town Canadian girl from Langley, BC, no ESPN, obviously, so you can't see women's softball on TV. So to say I was playing to strictly get a scholarship, that's not true. I did it because I loved it, but it came with the understanding of I've always appreciated the grind and the really hard work that goes in between the rewards, because you don't always get it, right? And you have to enjoy the journey in doing that. To say I loved when my dad got home from work and he'd say, all right, we're going down to the track. We're going to go train. You guys are going to run. I mean, we would do that 4 or 5 times a week. And it was just known in our family that that's what we do. And, there were days when, of course, I'm tired. I want to tap out, but I have to do it because there's someone else that is better than me and someone else that is chasing this dream of mine of getting to compete and play in an Olympics. And that same goes with basketball. I mean, I was up every morning at the gym in my high school, getting there for 6:30 every day. And it was just ingrained in me to just do it. And when softball started to grow and I loved it, it was like, man, I can be really good at this. So I got to work harder. I have to work harder. And it just became the everyday grind.
Now, before we get into your college career, I do want to say this because you had brought up a lot about your parents. And
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of parents that listen to the show. And for the parents that are kind of on the fence about, I can't see spending money for this tournament or spending money to be on this tournament team or, traveling here, traveling there. Obviously finances depends on who the family, obviously, but to have supportive parents like you did, how important was that for you as a player? Even if you never went to play college or professional softball, would it have still been worth it? All that attention that your parents gave to you and your brother.
Yes. I mean, it's given me life lessons. That's the deal with sports. They're great, right? And you always want to put your kids in them because they learn how to work hard, work around different people. But the lessons that I learned throughout and what I've learned from my mom and dad growing up is just carried on into my everyday life. And now it's carried on into how I'm raising my little girls. And I mean, I'm probably one of the strongest females most people will meet when it comes to just little girls believing that they can literally do anything they want to do. So taking that from my childhood and just being able to carry on that legacy of how my parents parented me to inspire my 6 and 3-year-old, I think is so key, especially at my age, being back in the game and getting to compete, hopefully at the highest level and go to an Olympics 13 years later. I'm an example for those 2 little girls downstairs, and they will see this thing play out, medal or no medal. I mean, this journey has allowed for me to just transform and become strong and say, like, dude, I can do anything.
Excellent.
You got to say that when you're out on that, on the Peloton and hitting it like you do. That's for dang sure. I know, it's one thing about doing this podcast. I think that, we got into this because we have daughters who play softball. Like we started this to do baseball, and then we were like, we're like shortchanging our daughters. This is kind of, ridiculous. We have this platform and we could talk to incredible athletes like you, and it's so true though, because Dan's daughter is one of the most talented girls I know. She's more talented than
Thank
most
you.
adults, honestly. I mean, the girl can sing, she can do everything. She's artistic. It's incredible. And, my daughter's like, well, Dad, I don't want to do this. Are you going to be upset? I don't care what you do. Just love
Yeah.
what you're doing. You know what I mean? And I'll support whatever you want to do as long as you give it your all and you don't just complain. If you complain about it, I'm not going to support it. But if you just give it your all in whatever you're doing, you can be successful at it.
Amen.
Now, one thing I want to ask you, because from afar, we're on the East Coast, and watching West Coast, Pac-12, Pac-10, all that stuff was what we did when we were in high school at midnight at 2 a.m. when all the East Coast games went off. But there's not too many programs that have the history that Washington does. Florida, Oklahoma, Alabama, maybe now it's coming to that fold. Arizona State, UCLA. There's probably 5 or 6, and Washington's one of them, and you're a part of that. What was it about that school that made you want to go there? And ultimately, how was the process like back then that's so different than it is now?
Yeah, I mean, I was recruited by 3 schools. It was UW, Alabama, and Nebraska. And Alabama and Nebraska had a Team Canada connection because Lawrie was our 08 Olympic coach. So I'd known her since 2002 or 2003. And then Patrick Murphy was my coach right from the get-go when I started on Team Canada. So I had that connection with them. I mean, it was heartbreaking having to pick up the phone and tell him I don't want to go there, especially Pat Murphy. I still remember that phone call. And my dad was big on you pick up the phone and you call and have the conversation and tell them why you don't want to go there. Because I feel like parents nowadays, it's okay, I'll do it for you. No, that's a big girl move. I'm choosing to go to UW, and I have to make sure that I let these coaches know that. It was gut-wrenching at that time at 16 years old, and he was so mad at me. And what's crazy is now we're such good friends. I broadcast, I go to Tuscaloosa, I love it. We text all the time. So it's just such a full circle thing. But I think for me, what really hit home with UW was I am a homebody, and I really have always loved being around my parents. I love when they get to come and watch me compete. And I just knew, honestly, my family's not going to come to Tuscaloosa. They're not coming to Nebraska. They'll potentially get to watch 1 or 2 tournaments a year. So in the grand scheme of these 4 years, what am I looking for? And it's to be able to build these memories and have my mom and dad, obviously, my grandparents. I have some of the best memories of my grandma coming to Oklahoma City watching us win it all. So I think for me, it was really just about being home, being part of a program that has the ability to win a national championship. They've been close. So maybe I can help them do that. And I'm so happy that I made that decision. It's one of the best ones I've ever made.
So once you got there, what were some of the biggest adjustments you had to make?
Oh gosh, man, it's so funny because I'm doing these Zoom calls with these high school teams to raise money for charity. And a lot of them will ask that, what was the biggest transition when you got to college? And it was just no one's holding my hand anymore. My mom's not doing my laundry. She's not scheduling stuff. She's not telling me I need to be here. The accountability piece is huge, right? So it really comes down to buy yourself an agenda, write your stuff down, expect that it's going to suck, because it does. I mean, you get in there and you're all bright-eyed, wow, this is amazing. And then you hit that grind phase of up at 5:30, 5:15 a.m. for 6 a.m. weights. And then you have school, and then you have practice, and then you have treatment and conditioning and all of this stuff. And it's every single day, and it gets tiring. So I think for me, I barely passed the first quarter. I think I got a 2.2. And if you go below a 2.0 GPA, you're not qualified. So I remember, HT pulls me into her office. She's like, dude, unacceptable. This cannot happen. So she had me on mandatory hourly. I think it was 3 hours twice a week to go to Suzzallo Library, and she would come and check on me to make sure that I was there. So it was her holding me accountable, but I had to just learn the structure. I had to learn how it all went down, and I had to just take better ownership of the situation. I thought, this will be easy. It's not easy.
Oh, Tyler, you're muted, buddy.
I muted because my kids came back from Walmart. Sorry. I apologize. One thing I love is that you don't make excuses. You just took full ownership of something that I'm sure you felt like you were failing at it at a 2.2. And some kids are like, oh, that's great. I'm super happy. I'm passing. I'm going to get the degree that everybody else has. But you took full ownership of your shortcomings in the classroom How did the rest of your academic life go
It was
from that
good.
point forward?
It was good because I just started to learn, you know, the tricks of the trade, and I figured it out. And I started to kind of get my niche for what I loved. And at the time when I was at UW, communications was the hardest major to get into. You needed a cumulative 3.5, which, I mean, I'm pretty smart, but in order to get a 3.5, I would not be great at softball. So it was like, I need to kind of figure that out. And I knew sports broadcasting was something I'd be interested in doing. So I ended up getting a sociology degree, but I remember taking literally every communication class that I could, public speaking, Comm 101, just all those little things to be able to potentially help me out for the long run. And I will say, by far, that public speaking class, I've never had to go through something like that, where it's just like you're literally standing in, you know, the middle of the quad, and you're talking about something that you're not overly comfortable about, but you're giving a speech in front of 1,500 people. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if this is a profession that I want to get into. But it was just cool to just go through those different things and learn more about myself and come out with a degree from an amazing university. At the end of the day, like, UW is a top 25 school in the world, and I'm really, really proud of that.
That's awesome. I was just thinking when you were talking about that, there's no better time to find out who you are and how to pull something out of yourself when you're talking in front of a big crowd, because it's one of the scariest things you could do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But talk about your time as an Olympian in 2008. I mean, not a lot of people get to do that, especially, you know, with now, you know, this year with it coming back. It was, you know, Japan 2020. So it was pretty awesome that was happening. But you know, for a lot of girls in softball, they're not going to be able to experience, or maybe they will. Hopefully they will. But what was that like for you, and what were some of the biggest takeaways from it?
Man, I could write a book on just the '08 experience in itself. And I think that's
You
why it's
should.
such a, and I'm planning on it. And that's why this is just such a full circle thing, getting to do this 13 years later and go through this experience, because I remember multiple times throughout that 2008 Olympic year where I took the year off of school, I called my mom and dad crying, being like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it doesn't even matter if I go to the Olympics, like, I can't do it. And I went through this emotional roller coaster of, number one, being out of my comfort zone and being gone for months and months on end. And what I learned was that I started to find that UW felt like family to me, and Team Canada was strictly business. And I wasn't good at being able to work with that mentality, right? Because I'm always at my best when I'm comfortable, I'm surrounded by people I love, and we're working hard for the common goal. But when I was on the national team, and I was by far the youngest on the team, 21 years old, you know, we had an older team with 26 to 30-year-olds. And I battled and butt heads with a lot of them. And, you know, if I could go back in time and take ownership of a lot of situations and just be able to have those hard conversations, I would. I just didn't have it in me at the time, because I felt like, man, I would do one thing that's great, but then they'd be on my ass and it'd be like 10 steps back. And then I'd be like, man, it doesn't matter what I do, it's never good enough. And at that time, there was a very pivotal moment for me where I was told I was going to start a game, which would have been the game that qualified us to win a medal. It was against Australia, and Lawrie, who's on our national team now, had been battling a quad or a hip issue. And I got the call the night before to come into Sippel's room at the Olympic Village. I go in, and she goes, you know, you're going to start tomorrow's game. And I was like, damn. Like, I remember Ken Revisa, my sports psychologist, one of the best ever, man. He said, you'll come to this crossroad as an athlete where you're going to be hit with these moments where you get to choose to take the road less traveled, and it's going to be tough, but you're going to see what you're made of, or you can tap out. And I was like, dude, this is my moment. Like, this is why I've grinded this whole year and gone through all of it. And I went into my room that night. I was doing this visualization stuff of going through Australia's lineup, because I'd literally played them probably 10, 12 times. And I told my roommate, Sheena, and I was like, I'm so excited that I have the ability to potentially help this team win a medal tomorrow. And go down the next day, we're in the full uni, we're going down to go to the field, and Sippel pulls me aside and she goes, I'm actually not going to start you anymore. And at that moment, at 21 years old, it gut wrenched me. I was done. I was tapped out. I was like, holy shit, like, this is not fair. And I'm mad. And I remember Jen Salling, who's a close friend now, playing with her still. I went up to her and I'm just like, this situation just happened. Literally, I want a ball. I'm not going to. And she's like, just try to suck it up and be as good of a teammate as you can be in this moment. And that would be the difference that I'm in now. If that same situation happened, I would flip it and be like, okay, I get it. This is what the coach is going to do regardless, but how can I help the team and be a better teammate? I mean, I was shitty. I was negative. I wasn't doing what I needed to do. I was sitting there sulking and like, shame on me, like, and I know that now. And that's one of the coolest things being able to go back is I'll leave no stone unturned for potentially some of the biggest games. If my name's called, I'll be ready to go. And if it's not, I'm going to help whoever's out there to potentially get this team to win a medal. But that moment for me in time just solidified so much. Like, I got to work harder. And my moment did come where, I got to that crossroad, but it wasn't the '08 Olympics. That's for sure.
Now let's fast forward a year and take what you took from the '08 Olympics. You go back to Washington, and we kind of heard this story a little bit from Morgan Stewart. What was that run like for you on the way to the national championship? And what you took from '08, how much of that fueled your fire going back into a situation where you were the leader, where people looked up to you, where, expectations were kind of high, and there's no way probably anybody was going to start those games over you at that point.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because Heather was there. So we finished that game we lost at the Olympics, and she was there with JT. And I remember hugging her, and stoic as can be. I can count on one hand how many times I've cried in this sport, and my whole team's bawling, and I needed to get away from it. And one of the things that really bothered me was that my brother was there with Team Canada. Like, we're both there together. And one thing that bugged me that whole time was that Lawrie would not let us go watch any other Olympic sports. Like, I was not allowed to watch my brother compete in the Olympics. So I remember that and those types of things where it's like, dude, I may never get this opportunity again. And I remember when we lost that game, Heather's there in the friends and family area, and I just give her the biggest hug. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, dude, I'm fine. I guarantee you nothing will come in my way for like us winning a national championship, because I've never felt the pain that I felt. I've only respected the game to the utmost that I possibly can, with my work ethic, with working hard, working when no one's watching. So it got to the point where I had to definitely do a gut check and look myself in the mirror and say, okay, I got to be better. I have to be a better teammate. But I also am a tough teammate at times because I hold people to that higher standard. I want to win, dude. And I'm going to do anything that I can possibly do to put myself in the best position to win. Now, if I see that you're on my team and you're taking away from our bucket and not doing what's required, I'm going to be the first person to call you out, because we're all sacrificing so much. And that's what was so amazing about that 2009 national championship team. We had a very selfless team. We had a lot of vets. Ashley Charters redshirted that '08 Olympic year, so she had her senior year. Lauren Greer, we got Jen Salling. So we just had a legit group that knew how to work. You call someone out, it's for the better of the team. It's not because I don't like you. And I really just remember that pivotal moment for me was that 15-inning game against UMass in the regional. And it was 2.5-hour game before that. We lost 7-1, 30-minute turnaround. Then we have a 5.5-hour game. And pitching every single inning of that, I don't recommend it. It's not overly fun. But I kept going through those motions in my head of like, this is the stuff Ken's talked about. This is that crossroad where you're going to get tested as an athlete and you're going to remember. And nothing in my athletic career was harder than that 15-inning game. And I was mentally done. As soon as last pitch was thrown and the game was done, full on tears, like just bawling, because I was like, that's everything that I've worked for. That's every car ride that I've driven with my dad, every road to the track, running around with my brother. That's all the work. And as athletes, when there's pressure and you feel those moments, I think that's the stuff you need to remember, the work that you put in to execute the situation, because you got to let fear in, you got to let pressure in, because if you're scared to fail, why are you playing sports? That's what you're made of. Right. And the beauty of it. And the national championship game was by far the coolest game that I'd ever been in after we won, but it was not the hardest. But what a rewarding deal for our team and the sacrifices we made, and to be able to win that for the University of Washington and be the first softball team to win it for the school. I was just so proud to be a part of it and thankful that HT took a chance on me. I was their first recruit. And I was really proud.
So with saying all of that, if you could go back and change anything that happened in 2008, would you?
Yeah, I just wish that I could have found a way to be a better teammate at times. And I get it. At
Yeah.
21 years old, you're not overly smart all the time. You think talent takes you pretty far, but it doesn't. And that's the coolest thing with me being back in the game now, doing this 13 years later, is I get it.
Yeah.
I give the younger ones more grace than I should,
Right.
because I remember being that age. And if I'm, we got a young girl on the team who's coming in, and if I'm going to intimidate the crap out of her, what's that going to do? Nothing. I want to get the best 15 athletes that just love each other to death, that are going to go to war to win a medal. So I got to try to be a leader of that pack. It's not to scare anyone off. It's to hold everyone to that higher standard. Because what I continue to keep saying, there's another gal, Lauren Bay, her and I got kids. And if we can literally do what we do and sacrifice our time away from our kids and put up this work ethic, for those that are 25, fresh out of college, that have nothing else, you got to pick up the slack. Got to work hard.
I hear you. One thing I want to ask before we get too far into some of these other topics is if there was a Mount Rushmore, I guess, of college softball coaches, I guess you got Tim Walton, Mike Candrea, and Heather Tarr's in that, Patrick Murphy, I guess, Heather Tarr's in that group though. So one thing I want to ask, and I know she's kind of involved in USA softball and does a lot with that as well, but what does she mean, not only to the University of Washington, but to women's college softball in general? And it sounds like she's had a tremendous impact in your life that still's carried on, and you guys have a great alumni. Probably, you and UCLA compete against, who's got the best softball alumni. But what does she mean to the game of softball, not just at the University of Washington?
Man, she's just such a pro. Like, she goes about her business in just the right way, and she's an advocate for the right things. She's about women in sports, and she's about equality, and she truly knows how to push you to this level because the respect is there. You come in and it's that mutual respect. And she was the type of coach that I would remember that just knew me as a player, really got to know me and said, like, okay, this is kind of how Danielle ticks. And yes, I'm the head coach and make the decisions, but she was really good at being able to respect my work ethic, but also help me and allow for me to grow as a player by not being put in this cookie cutter mentality. Because I think that can be the hardest thing. You go into a program and it's like, okay, everyone's the same. We all have to be coached the exact same. And she's the type of coach that if you let down, you're just like, oh my God, I feel horrible, because she meant that much to you. And she's somebody that it doesn't matter if she's with USA or with UW. I mean, she's making people better around her. She likes to grow the sport. She's always just giving back. She goes to Hawaii every year to do that camp in December to just help other athletes. And she just gives and gives and gives and gives and never asks. And for me, that's the most important part. Like, in this sport, the older you get, you start to learn that, yeah, my time playing this game is dwindling. But how can I help grow the game? Or how can I pass on the knowledge that I've learned to just help the next generation of, the youth coming up and just understanding those next steps. And God, I would love if my kids got an opportunity to play for her. She might be a little old by that time, but I would love it if they got that chance, because she's that special to me for sure.
That's excellent. Love that. I wanted to ask you, Danielle, about do you have a fun draft story, like from going from college to pro? Do you have a fun draft story? I know a lot of the people we talk to, they're usually they were either on their way to the Women's College World Series or they were in the midst of it. So, do you have a story that's kind of fun?
No, I wish I did. I came late. I got signed late by the Pride. So I literally signed with them in August. So I graduated in 2010. I played Team Canada June and July. And then when Team Canada stopped, the Pride was looking for another pitcher. So the opportunity, opened up, and my agent at the time helped me get my foot in the door with that. And I didn't know how I felt about playing in the league. It's a different league, because you just see, you see the MLB and you see the WNBA and all these cool different things. And there's multiple teams. And back in the day, there was 4 teams when I played. So it's like, all right, my ERA is literally just getting inflated every single day. Like, I'm playing the same 3 teams. So it was a mental struggle for me, that league, because I got humbled a lot. And I was very fortunate to play on the team I played on, because Don DeNatas, who was the GM and just the best. Like, he really took care of his athletes. And I got to play with Mendoza. I played with Watley. I played with Caitlin Lowe. I played with the best in the game. So for that, I'm forever thankful I made that decision to do that. But it would be a tough road to go, 15 years playing in the MPF. It would be a hell of a grind.
Now, one thing I got to bring up, and in all honesty, I like I said, this is a baseball podcast. We went to a softball podcast, and I saw you on ESPN doing your work at Women's College World Series, and I was so going through our social media. I'm like, got to follow her. She's got all this great insight. Then I'm looking, all of this stuff, and then I start seeing all the posts and your family and all this, and then your training. How do you balance, and you kind of just brought it up that if we can make time for it, you should be making time for it. How do you balance mom, family, training, going away, coming back, training more? Is it just a cycle, rinse and repeat, or, is your day mapped out, or is it just, oh, she's sick today, we can't do anything? How do you do all that? Because these are the same struggles that everybody in the real world kind of deals with, but not too many 18 to 22-year-olds or even, younger that might listen to this podcast deal with.
Yeah, man, I wish we could get more sick days. I get, the NyQuil commercial when they're sitting there and they're like, yep, going to take a sick day. I never get one of those.
Right.
But, honestly, I think that's why it was so hard for me when the Olympics were postponed another 16 months, because this is a very uphill slope. And it's not to say that I'm not really trying to soak up and enjoy the grind, because I do. I have a very supportive husband, which, number one, I need. My parents are there to help at any time that they possibly can. We had to go through a company to get an au pair to live in our home, because it got to the point where it was a lot. I was training a lot. My husband would have to cover when I'm gone, and there's just no way when I would have to go for these long stretches of time that we could put that burden on him or on friends anymore. So we took the route of getting someone in our home, and she became like family. So that definitely left me leaving with, okay, it's okay. Like, I trust this woman. I love this woman. She's coming in and she's helping. One thing I will say that I've always loved is routine. I love that routine. The fall, I know what's going to happen as far as my lifts and my conditioning. When my daughter's in school, how it all works itself out. I will say that it never gets easier to be away from your kids. Like, it really doesn't. And I went through a couple stretches over the course of the summers where I'd be gone. When I went to Peru last summer for Pan Ams, I was gone for a little over 21 days. And at that point, like, with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, they don't want to FaceTime. Right. They don't really care. So I feel like I don't get to connect with them. I'll go through these ups and downs, and my husband's frustrated that I'm gone. There's nothing I can do about it. And those are the reality checks where you just have to, like, take a deep breath, confide in your teammates, cry. I've cried more these last 3 years than I ever have in the game, but it's purely because I love it so much, and I appreciate what I'm going through, because I know it's worth something. Medal or no medal, it's worth something in the bigger picture of all of this, whether it's the life lessons I can teach my kids. But this is not easy. And for me, in order to make this decision to go back to train another 15 months, it's like, I can't play this summer. Like, I need a month and a half, 2 months break, man. Cause when September came last year after the Olympic qualifier, like, I was balls to the wall, the fittest I'd ever been, like, putting in the work. We're talking like driving to D-bats at 8:30 at night. It's pissing rain. My kids are asleep. I'm freezing cold. It's like my body hurts from the work I've put in, and I'm still going to go put in work. And I'd question my why every time. Like, why am I doing this? You're doing this because you want to win an Olympic medal, and the sacrifices it takes is moments like this. So I need to get in the right frame of mind to be able to do that again, because that was really hard. And I wasn't planning to do that for an additional 16 months. I was under the, intention that Olympics are coming in July. I'm ready to rock. And now I just am going another 15 months.
I was about to say, hell, I remember seeing on social media you posting you're on vacation with your family and you're out on the tennis courts, like, trying to make all the people look bad for being on vacation. And you're out there busting your butt doing all these workouts and posting them for everybody to see. And I mean, that's what leaders do. And, there's no time to let anybody pass you and go by you. But man, I'll tell you, I'm like, damn, she works her ass off. And, I think about like Kat Osterman, who's another one on her way back. And, man, to postpone it for another year, it's like, God, that's so impactful I mean, I get you want to have the games when you don't want to miss them, but man, there's so many things that go into it behind the scenes that, it's just not just a date. It's a lot more than that in life.
It ran through my head to not do it.
I bet.
Honestly, it did. There's talks of my husband and I wanting to have potentially another baby, and I'm only getting older. So that went through my mind. But then I also had this like vision of like, number one, like I set this goal out. What does that show my children? Like,
Right.
oh man, it's really hard. I just don't think I can do it because I can't make the sacrifice. Then God damn it, what was the last 3 years? Like, what was the
Right.
time you spent away from your kids? Was that worth it? Because if you quit now, and then I had these moments of like Team Canada going on the podium in 2021 and me not being there and how much that would hurt. Or the opposite, if they don't get on the podium, am I a reason as to why they don't? And, I need to see this through. I love this team more than ever. And honestly, some of my best friends for life are on that team. Kaylee Rafter, Jen Salling, who we played together in 2008. So when I'm training and I'm grinding, it's like those women are hard on my mind. Thinking about those moments of when you see Christine Sinclair win a bronze medal at the Olympic Games for soccer, hugging her teammates with tears, it's because you're going through the trenches with those people. And it's worth it to go through it in hopes that those moments happen. So when I'm working and I'm putting in the work, it's understanding that like I want those moments. I see them and I work hard in hopes that it'll happen. We never know if it will. But damn it, I'm going to see this through. And I guess we're pulling a whole 4 years here instead of 3. What's one more year?
Danielle, throughout this interview, you've said it actually probably 3 times, if not 4. You had said it when your dad was, when you guys were running and you were tired and you were like, why are we doing this? And he said, it's sacrifice for moments like this. You're going to bring it back to this. Then you were in college and the mental coach said, you're going to come to a crossroads where, all this is going to, you either can take the road less traveled or you can quit. So it's basically for moments like this. And you had just said it right now, 13 years after being in the Olympics, all of a sudden you get another shot at it and you're training your butt off, and it's the sacrifices for moments like this. So with saying that, to kind of keep that theme, right now we're in a situation in our country and in the world that we've never dealt with before. And it's the craziest thing ever. And there's a lot of high school and college athletes that are home right now. And, they don't know if they're going to be able to play this year or next year. They don't know what their future is going to be. So what can you tell them? Because you're a mom of 2, you're married, you're trying to work your butt off to be in the best shape of your life to compete in the Olympics next year. So what do you say to the people that are home right now that are thinking, I guess I should get up and maybe take some swings, maybe work out, maybe do this, but next season when winter workouts start up, I'll get back into it. What do you say to those kids?
Number one, what I continue to keep expressing to these teams I talk to in these Zoom messages is just like, nobody cares about your situation that you're in. And I hate to say that, but I had to learn that real quick. No one gives a shit that I'm sitting over here sulking, or that, yes, this sucks for me more than any other player probably on Team Canada, aside from Lauren Bay, because we have to sacrifice another year with the kids. No one cares. So I can sit here and say, poor me, poor me, poor me. But dude, what is that doing? I cannot stress enough about that motivation within. You have to be self-motivated. You have to find a way. Aside from me getting up for my kids every single day, I get up with the intent of like, okay, I know that like I got to get a little better today. And it doesn't matter what it may be, whether it's a hardcore workout or I'm not doing anything. It could just be something that I get motivated for. But at the end of the day, if you allow the excuses of like, oh, I'm good, like it's still like however long away, I don't need to do it, then you're setting yourself up to say excuses are fine. You can always put it on the back burner. I don't need to do this today. And trust me, I'm the biggest advocate for recovery at 33 years old. Like I got to take my time to, chill and not push myself, but it's with the intention of I'm so motivated and driven for wanting to be the best at whatever it is that I'm going to do. And that's a really hard thing for, I think, a 14, 15, 16-year-old with a season ripped away from them and stuck inside having to focus on the high school piece. But what I'll say to them is put up a vision board, put up some goals that or stuff that you really want to get to. Because at the end of the day, for people that are really serious about sports, someone is better than you and someone's working harder than you and somebody wants what you have. And at the end of the day, if you haven't put in the right amount of work or done it the right way, you're not going to get what you want. And I've learned that, like, no one feels sorry for anybody, for me, aside from my parents or husband. So I have to leave no stone unturned in this Olympic journey, but also for the rest of my life, doesn't matter what I do. And I'm just so lucky that I grew up with, my mom and dad that really just instilled those types of things in us. It was important to carry yourself well, to be confident, to work hard. Because why do it if you're just going to be mediocre? I mean, if I play I've done slow pitch softball and stuff, and it's like, all right, I'm mediocre at this. I don't like it. I could be doing this beer league with my husband. I was like, I cannot do this. Is this the rest of my life? Absolutely not. This is not for me. But it's just kind of going through those different things in your life. But to the high school kids, you got to get over it. You got to come out of this a little bit better, because if you come out and you're worse than when you got in, nobody cares. You're just digging yourself into a deeper hole.
Love it.
I'll tell you, I mean, as a guy, we say, like, you're a badass, like, you're a badass chick, you know what I mean? Like, but I say that in a respectful way because you're the kind of woman we want our daughters that are 11 going on 12 to look up to. And, we've gotten to meet so many fantastic softball women throughout the course of this, whether, it'd be a Megan King who smiles through the world, or a Sierra Romero whose family's so talented and works their butt off, or an Alex Powers who's overcome 2 ACL surgeries in a 12-month span. You know what I mean? You're like a no filter. And on your social media in this day and age, that's not what young girls see all the time. What do you say to those teenage girls that may have some confidence issues, or some of those doubts that go through their mind, or they're afraid to post this or say that, or be themselves, be who they really are? What do you say to them? Because I know you'll say whatever is on your mind. You're not going to hold back here, which I think is fantastic. So if you could just, and for dads out there that are coaching girls, I mean, who knows what they're going through? You don't know what teenage adolescent girls are going through and the daily struggles of it in this day and age.
Social media is a piece of work. It is. And that's why I've taken it and I've allowed for people to just truly see me for what it is and what I go through, and the good with the bad, whether it's having a bad day as a mom, or getting pissed off at my kids, or having, like, I don't always show the best stuff. But I think when these young women go through it and see this stuff, it's like you see this fake stuff of like, wow, this is how my life should be, or this is what I should be doing, or this is what I should look like. And it's just like, dude, little girls need to know that, like, strong is powerful, strong is beauty. You need to be able to see stuff and look and be like, that's real. Like, that's actually real life. And I think that's why, social media for me and my kids is just going to be, as long as I can keep them off of it, I think it's important, because at the end of the day, like, I really try to follow people that don't make me feel bad about myself, because if you make me feel bad about myself, that's doing nothing for my self-worth. I have to be able to look at what you're putting and be like, dude, I get it. Thank you for that extra motivation. And that's why I'm really just cognizant about what I put on there, because I don't ever want to make little girls feel like they're not putting in enough work, or they don't look a certain way. But at the end of the day, the work ethic piece, I'll always put that out there, because that's just a real me. And it doesn't matter if you're trying to play D1 and win a national championship, or go to JUCO and win. At the end of the day, the work ethic speaks for itself. And that's why I think this is just such an important platform for me, to be able to get that out there, to just show that if you put in the work and you enjoy the grind, you hope the reward's there. But if it's not, you're growing as a person, you're getting better. And if someone's making you feel bad about yourself, bye. I don't need to follow you, block you. You're good. You mean nothing to me in my life, because a lot of the time you don't even know these people, So it's like, why am I going to spend my time or energy on you? And I would rather have less friends than I do because of that, but that's okay, because I know my worth, but I also know the people that I surround myself with, and I'd go to war for all of them. Work ethic transcends everything, right? Amen. Right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
No, you couldn't have said it any better. And you've given so many really good nuggets of information that young women listening to this episode are going to get so much out of. And we've talked about a bunch of topics. Is there, before we move on to the last few questions, is there anything that we didn't bring up that you want to touch on, or shed some light on?
No, I feel like we've covered a good amount of stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to have a vision as to what it is you want to do. Like, I love that people like to do stuff because they enjoy it, right? But for me, it's, in the softball world and sports, I do it with purpose because I wanted to help a team become the best. And so it's kind of all I know. And I hate that I don't know that other side of stuff, but like I continue to keep saying, I dig the hard work because it's just helped me as an everyday person, confidence wise. It's allowed for me to just feel good in my life. And I think at the end of the day, when you can feel good, it's all that matters. And it's such an emotional time, like right now. So it's just finding the littlest things that you can just hold on to and say, like, I need to hold on to that. And that makes me happy. Go for it. Because with women, you need to, I feel like you need to look good to play good. That's why I think it's so important for male coaches to always just keep reiterating, like, nice job, your swing looks good, or man, that really looks good. Like, guys are just so different, right? You can go for 10, or you can go and you hit a home run, you're on top of the world, but women just tick a little bit differently. So I think to be able to just tell somebody how good that they are, even if they're struggling, really just picks up that extra confidence. And I think that's really important for, especially, 6, 7, 8 years old, like, you're doing a good job, I think goes a long, long way.
It's funny you say I distinctly remember growing up and hearing Deion Sanders say you got to look good to play good, you got to play good to get paid good, and you got to get paid good to live good. And I remember hearing that, and I was like, man, that guy. I mean, it's Deion. You know what I mean? So you see him on TV and the flash that goes with it, but it's it's one of those things I never forget hearing that. And I mean, as a coach, I coach. I've worked with girls in softball a little bit, and high school boys most of my life, and younger kids too. But it's I may get on them about 2 negatives. I always finish on a positive though, because I always want them to walk away thinking the positive, but always making sure I gave them some sort of feedback to fix and get better at. That's for sure.
Yeah,
One thing we love to ask, because I think it's so true. If this is like the biggest reset in life that we could all get, but if you could go back and tell your younger self, 12 to 16 years old, anything, what would you go back and say to that Danielle?
I would tell myself to probably put more work in the mental sides of the game. In any respect, it doesn't have to necessarily be just strictly for sports, but just open up the mindset to that stuff, because Ken Ravizza and all that stuff came super late to the party for me. And it's just like, wow, what type of player could I have been if I utilized this my freshman, sophomore year instead of really learning it after the '08 Olympics. So I think just being able to know that talent gets you so far. And then what separates the good and the great is the most mentally tough, and the ones that can turn the page on the really bad days, and also be humbled by it and get better because of it. I think there's nothing better than getting slapped in the face with just a shit performance, because that allows for you to go, I've never made it. And guess what? You never probably will. And that's okay. But I know that I'm never going to be the best pitcher in the world. At 33 years old, I'm not going to be the best pitcher in the world. But I'll be damned if someone works harder than me. And I'll be damned when the pressure's there and it's some of the most intense moments that I've ever felt in my life. Then I'm not going to rise to the occasion because I've been through the trenches. So understanding the mental game plays such a huge part in that.
Now I have to ask you this, because we've had we've had siblings on our show at different times. We had Ryan and Paige Halstead on our show, and Paige played collegiate softball, and Ryan's currently in the minor leagues, and she had said something funny about her brother. He had to come on and defend his honor, and then he told a cool story about his sister. So, with that being said, and us knowing who your brother is, tell us a funny story about your brother.
Oh my! I mean, it was public knowledge when he threw that helmet at the umpire in Toronto. That was definitely not good. I mean, I have so many stories of just him and I growing up where we would just compete at everything we did, whether it was doing the dishes, who could dry the dishes the fastest. We'd be walking around the house. My dad would be like, who can jump up and touch that? And it was that upbringing of like, not being like, okay, don't stop bugging your brother, stop hitting her, stop doing this. My dad would always say, like, you can hit him back. Like, if he hits you, hit him back. And I did. And I could beat the SHIT out of him for a while. And then he figured it out. And he got hella strong real quick. And I did not mess with him. But honestly, I'm not the same person if I don't have him in my upbringing, with just the competitive nature that we grew up to love. It's pretty much all that we knew. And I'm so happy they live in Seattle and we get the opportunity to see them and be around them, because he's all that I've ever known. He may piss me off more times than not, but I love him to death, and we've been through a lot. So.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Family's everything. That's for sure. What would, obviously we know the Olympics got rescheduled, but what would be some of your other goals over the next 3 to 5 years? And, there's so many things that you're involved in. You've done ESPN work and you do your own thing, and you've done clinics and lessons, and you're involved with so much, and Team Canada and just everything. But what would be some of the things you'd like to personally achieve in the next 3 to 5 years?
Man, an Olympic medal's up there. I really love my job. Like, I really love strictly just doing the softball, because I truly enjoy getting to spend time with my kids. I love being able to have the summertime to be able to go to Cape Cod, where my husband's family lives, and spend time with family. And I like being able to have the fall to really be present with my kids, because my schedule, when broadcasting is full on, it's on. I'm gone every weekend, and that's hard. So to potentially further anything that has to do with that, I mean, I'm not interested to go do baseball or anything, Jess Mendoza, because I like being around the kids right now. But maybe if something else opened up, to be able to venture into that sports broadcasting stuff, because I like being able to talk sports and just be real and honest. That's, at the end of the day, I always view how I go about it as if someone else is watching. Like, I would love to be able to just tell someone exactly what's going on and not candy coat stuff, because I think that's really important. I mean, fitness for me is huge. I'm definitely not going to go do a marathon or anything like that, but I just like staying fit and in shape, just because it makes me feel like mentally tough. Like, when I put myself through a workout and I'm just like, that sucks. That just makes me feel better as a person, just putting in work, even if it's for the Olympics or if it's not. And then I would like to have another kid. I don't know if that's in the cards, but that's definitely something that we've talked about in the next couple of years. Because I felt like when I went back to go do this Olympic thing, Audrey was 9 months old. So she was still really, really, really young. And I don't feel like I got to soak up as much time when she was a baby. And I find myself coddling her and cuddling her more now, because I didn't get all of that time when I went back to play.
I would think you could make one hell of a podcast. I mean, honestly, like, you would be one hell of a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, you say it like it is. I mean, you're like the female version of Stephen A. Smith. I mean, like, you just let it out there. I love it. Honestly, it's great.
Why should we not, though?
Yeah. Hey.
I mean, I'm never going to say anything that's going to intentionally hurt an individual or something like that. But at the end of the day, like, we have to be driven enough to get where we want to go. It doesn't matter if it's high level sports or if you're going to college, you want to get a degree. I mean, dude, you got to work hard. It's just how it works. And I'm lucky that I have 2 little girls down there that I feel like I could be a good example for. Like, Maddie is such a little badass, and I don't think she's the same kid she is right now without seeing me put in the work. Like, she wants me to come out and see her in the garage running on the treadmill, and she'll be running at like a 6 with an incline at a 4 or 5, and she's 6. So she just like loves those moments where I'm proud of her. And that's why I just think it's so important. And I'm so happy I'm doing this, because it's just igniting some type of a flame in them to be like, whoa, this is kind of a big deal. And my mom, not saying I'm a big deal, but I'm working hard for something. And if she can do this, why the hell can't we? And it's just going to open up the door for them when they get to that age where they're driven to do something. Like, let's go. I've done it. I'm going to help you guys, but you've seen me do it. You're fully capable.
That's excellent. I love that. That is so good. Setting the example right there. I wanted to ask you, just because this podcast, I mean, we've met incredible people, And we've talked to so many different people, male, female, that have had amazing stories, amazing careers. And it's kind of connected the dots from one person to the next. And it's given our listeners value every single week. And I wanted to see if you could recommend anyone to come on our show to give value to our listeners, to have a good story, to talk about the sport. Who would that person be?
I think Sis Bates is pretty high up on my list. And I think I could help you guys get her on here.
That would be wonderful.
We have a pretty good relationship, but I have a funny story about her. My husband was flying back from California to Seattle, and he was on the plane next to this guy, John Bates, Sis Bates' dad. And they were just kind of shooting the shit and just talking, and they got into the softball discussion. And, you know, my husband was talking about UW, and he goes, oh, you know, my wife used to play there. And he kind of threw my name out there. And her dad was just like, oh, my God. Sis Bates, that's the reason why that's my daughter. It's the reason why she's going to UW is Danielle. And I remember in that moment, my husband just, I don't think he knew when he got into when he married me, with just all of this and leaving his life in Boston to come to Seattle and be around all of this. He still talks about that moment to like this day. And Sis Bates, just it's aside from me, it's my kid's favorite player. You know, like Maddie loves going to games, going in the locker room, seeing Sis, hugging her, and she's
It's
so
6
personable.
o'clock.
She's so great, and she's definitely one of my favorites to have put on the UW purple and gold for sure.
Her highlight reel is so impressive. I know my daughter for a little while was playing shortstop, and she's kind of been playing was practicing this winter over at third base. And, you know, she watched her play over the past couple College World Series, and she's just like, that girl is so good. She's so talented and makes it look so easy. It's
Grew
impressive.
up playing with the boys. She played with the boys. And so all she'd ever been around her brother. And I just think she has such a cool story to bring to the table, and talk about someone that works hard. I mean, she can't weigh more than $120. She's by far the best shortstop in the nation. It's crazy. She's one of my favorites.
It's fun to watch. Fun to watch. That's for sure. You know, this has been great. Love talking to you. You're so inspiring. You work your ass off. You make me feel like I'm useless. And honestly, when you signed up to join us on a podcast, I was so pumped. I thought, damn, wouldn't that be some shit because we got to interview Kat Osterman last year when she literally 2 weeks before she announced she was coming back. And I thought to myself, when you signed up, I'm like, damn, how cool would it be if Kat Osterman faces Danielle in the 2020 Olympic or 2021 Olympics against each other? And here we are, we got both on our podcast. Like, that's some cool shit for us, you know, for two dads who have daughters who play softball. It's, you know, and this is kind of like our audio library to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's cool now is that Kat and I are friends. We used to play together and we weren't.
I bet.
Each other. We were both extremely competitive. It was different when I played with the Pride the very first year. We did not get along for a while. And then now I think it's just that mutual respect of another player and how hard she's worked. And like, I'll never hate someone because they're good. That is never, ever going to be me. I'll never hate someone because they're pretty. None of those things. I just purely appreciate when someone is legit, they work hard. And at the end of the day, they're a good teammate. That's what I've learned throughout this whole thing. Back in 2008, I needed to be a better teammate. And that's how I feel being here 13 years later, as I add that value to a team because I've worked on that and I've worked on myself. So I'm proud of where I'm at. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to work hard to try to let us win a medal and put myself through the hard work to allow it to pay off. We'll see.
We'll follow along. For those who may not follow you, where can they find you at on social media to follow you on your journey? Because it's really a journey. It's not just a social media page. It's a journey that you share. I love your hashtag minor league mom of two, and it's such a cool thing, or, you know, all those things. It's pretty cool to see and watch. And, you know, we have lives and jobs and dads, and we do this for fun and coach and all that. And, you know, just what you do is inspiring. So we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, a lot of people reach out on Instagram or Twitter, just Danielle Lawrie 15. And make sure you guys know, too, that you can always reach out with your girls if you want me to talk to your guys' teams, or if you need help with your daughters with anything, please feel free. I mean, I'm an open book as far as wanting to grow the game and better the game and leave it better when I played it. So I'm always here to help. So know that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah.
It means a lot. It means the world.
For sure.
Well, Danielle, we come down to the last question. like Tyler said, we really appreciate you coming on here and giving us all that knowledge and all, for our listeners. And the last question we always ask everyone is, partial because we're both big music fans. I play music as well. I'm a musician, but I feel that music really brings out the true person, especially when they're in a position where they need to dominate. So if let's take you to 2021 Olympics. You're walking out to the mound. What song would you like to hear playing on over the speakers?
Enter Sandman all day. Like, give me all the feels. That just would make me think of like a closer coming in the ninth inning, running, everyone's against him, music blasting. I love that one. That's definitely. It's funny because I don't listen to hardcore rock or anything when I'm in the garage. It's not like I'm getting just this amped up on it, but that song for some reason I think just kind of hones in on the hard work, everything you've done, and it just gets me going. That's for sure.
It's probably one of the best pitcher walkout songs ever.
Mariano Rivera, one of the best to ever do it. That's what he came out to every time.
I was only born a guy. I would have been like Mariana.
No shit. I believe it. Your brother would have been up Schitt's Creek.
I know. He'd be pissed.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time. And I can't believe we got all this in just like an hour and like 3 or 4 minutes here. So thank you so much for making the time.
Of course. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thank you, Danielle. We're looking forward to watching your journey and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.
Sounds good. Bye, guys.
See ya. We might get sued by Lars on that one.
Maybe. Who knows? He ruined Napster for all of us. They're over 32 years old. So,
Oh, it's okay.
Whatever.
It's okay. My bad publicity is still good publicity, right? No,
it is for sure now.
Man, if you're listening to this and you didn't get anything out of that, then you weren't listening. Because my goodness, what a great person to have on. An excellent story, and she just tells it how it is. I love it.
So authentic and honest, man. So that was great. I loved it. Good work, Dave.
Absolutely. And make sure you follow her on all social media. We'll have her links in the show notes. And as always, you can find us on all things social media, Going Yard Podcast, and also our Twitter is GY Podcast. And if you are at home and looking to do some work with your swing, with pitching, mental game, the whole 9 yards, and you'd like to work with us, let us know. Just reach out to us, and we'll lead you in the right direction. Just look up Going Yard Performance. Follow us on all social media as well with that.
Yes, you can find all of that stuff that Dan's talking about on our website, goingyardpodcast.com and goingyardpodcast.com/performance. Make sure you like, subscribe. That way, every time we put up one of these fantastic episodes like this on Tuesdays for softball, you get it automatically downloaded in your inbox. And on Fridays, we get baseball out there to you. So make sure you like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review if you could, so we can climb those podcast rankings.
That's right. And that's a wrap for this episode. So for Danielle, Lawrie, and all of us here at the Going Yard Podcast, I'm Dan.
And I'm Tyler. See ya.
Later.